The 2022-2023 season previews conclude today with the Dallas Stars. We're finally done with this. It took a little bit longer than expected, but it's okay. We got them all done. So the Dallas Stars today, they are obviously a team that lost in round one against the Flames, and they kind of took some hits this offseason. But anyways, looking at this past year, they went 46, 30, and 6 for 98 points. They scored 238 goals and only let in 246, and they lost in round one against the Calgary Flames. The leading goal scorer is Joe Pavelski with 27 goals, 54 assists for 81 points, and then your goaltender in net was Jake Ottinger with a 30, 15, and 1 record with a 2.53 goals against average. Obviously, this team kind of surprised some people last season. They almost pulled off a first-round shock against the Calgary Flames. They obviously lost in Game 7 overtime, so probably the most heartbreak you can get. But obviously, there are guys like Joe Pavelski and Jason Robertson had great seasons. Ottinger looked really good in net there. And this offseason brought a lot of questions for the Dallas Stars, and it's a really big wonder where they're going to go for here. Your departures: John Klingberg, Vladislav Namestnikov, Alexander Radulov, Andrej Sekera, Braden Holtby, and Michael Raffles. So obviously there you have John Klingberg and Andrej Sekera taking off that blue line. Klingberg was obviously a really good right D, and that really weakens that right D side 100%. And obviously losing Sekera, he was a solid depth defenseman. He looked solid in his time with Dallas. He actually looked better in Dallas than he did in some other places when he was earlier in his NHL career. So that is pretty good, obviously, for an old defenseman like him. Best of wishes to him in retirement. Obviously, Braden Holtby had injury problems. Nemestnikov losing a solid third-line forward, and then Radulov obviously went and signed in Russia. So obviously there, those in the interesting departures list. Your acquisitions are interesting as well. Mason Marchment, Colin Miller, Will Butcher, and Nils Lundqvist. So obviously there you have Mason Marchment. Marchment is a very interesting forward who had a breakout year with the Florida Panthers. I would expect him to honestly probably play top 6 role right off the bat, especially if they don't sign Robertson before the time that he's supposed to. I can make a whole separate video on that on its own. That is just a whole different topic. But overall, we have heard nothing about a Robertson contract, so right now we're kind of just left in the dark on what's going to happen for Jason Robertson and the Dallas Stars as of right now. But obviously there you get some solid defensemen back in Miller, Butcher, and Lundqvist. Really losing Klingberg on that blue line takes a huge toll on this D course. So obviously they wanted to stack up on that end, and they tried improving the right D side as much as they could. Obviously, Nils Lundqvist, they've traded earlier this past month for a first-round pick. Bit of a risk, but I definitely think Lundqvist is an interesting defenseman and could flourish in Dallas. And watching this preseason game from the Dallas Stars tonight, as of right now, against the Minnesota Wild, he's looked solid so far. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on if you're the Dallas Stars. Anyways, looking at your projected lineup here, best case scenario. This is if Jason Robertson signed a contract with the Stars and does not get traded, which could very well happen, or doesn't get offer sheeted, which could also very well happen. So you have Jason Robertson, Rupe Hinton, Joe Pavelski, then you have Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, and Denis Gurianov. Obviously, a little bit of an older top 6, definitely. Pavelski, Benn, Seguin, and Gurianov are definitely getting up there in age, but still solid forwards nonetheless. Obviously, that Seguin contract is not too good, but hopefully playing another full season of being healthy could definitely help him out. And Pavelski keeps getting up there in age, but he still keeps going at it and keeps putting up impressive points. He had 81 points, which is nearly a career high. And he's like 34. Like, that is absolutely unbelievable. So an amazing player in Pavelski there. Definitely hoping for another good season out of him. As for your bottom 6 here, you have Mason Marchment, Radek Faksa, and Luke Glendening. Then you have Marian Studenik, Jacob Peterson, and Ty Dellandrea. Then you have Joel Kivaranta, Tanner Kiro, and Riley Barber. So you do have some interesting pieces there in that bottom 6. Obviously, Mason Marchment, as I mentioned, would play top 6 if Robertson isn't signed to a contract by the beginning of the season. So that's definitely something you got to keep in mind there. But obviously, very solid bottom 6. You got guys like Faksa playing well. Glendening is going to be a solid winger. He could play center as well. Obviously, down below, you have Studnik and Peterson. Peterson has looked very solid for the Dallas Stars. He played well last season. Definitely going to play well, playing a 4th-line role in his first full NHL season. Definitely interested in seeing what's going to happen there. And somebody that I actually forgot to mention in my lineup here is actually Wyatt Johnson. I realized I just looked at my depth chart right here, and I just saw Wyatt Johnson's name. So Johnson definitely could play a role in the Stars forward core. Obviously, as well as that, I don't have it mentioned here as either, but Maverick Bourque could look interesting as well if he comes into the lineup and plays well for Dallas. And then obviously you got Logan Stankoven. You got guys down there in Dallas's prospect pool. It's a bright future. That's all I'm going to say. It looks very good right now for the Dallas Stars, definitely. You look at that defense. Leave something to be desired. Absolutely. Your first pairing, Heiskanen and Miller. Second pairing, Sutter and Lundqvist. Third pairing, Esa Lindell and Yanni Hakanpää. Then you have Thomas Harley and Joel Hanley. Wait, no, yeah, I got those right. In the extra defenders there. So obviously Harley argued as your top prospect for Dallas coming into the Stars roster this season. Definitely going to be counted on. Unfortunately, he is a left defenseman, so you're going to have to deal with that. But obviously, definitely could be a solid X factor on that left D side. But obviously, the really big question is that right defense side. Definitely everybody's talking about that and how with Klingberg gone, it makes it so much weaker with Colin Miller being your first pairing defender. But I think, and I know I haven't listed as second pairing, but I think Nils Lundqvist could very well take over that first pairing if he plays well out of the gate with the Dallas Stars. He's looked solid so far. He could very well flourish and do it again. I think he could very well take that top spot on the right D side and play with Miro Heiskanen. He could be the next defenseman for the Dallas Stars, obviously. And obviously, when we get to the trade deadline, the Stars could see a defenseman like, I don't know, Jacob Chikrin out there, and maybe they make a deal for him. So who knows? Your goaltending, you have Ottinger and Wedgwood as your starter and backup. Then you have Anton Khudobin as a third string, who is injured right now, according to Cap Friendly. So obviously there, Ottinger and Wedgwood, two very solid goaltenders. Ottinger showed some young potential. A lot of controversy with his contract, but then he eventually signed a deal, and then Wedgwood as well, a solid backup. And then Anton Khudobin. And by the way, Wedgwood may have listened to the Nordcast. That we mentioned it, and he was like saying a 12-hour ride to Dallas in an Instagram post, and he recommended podcast. And we talked about the Nordcast, and Wedgwood liked both me and my co-host Carter's comments. So I'm just saying, he might have listened to the Nordcast. So you could see Scott Wedgwood on the pod very soon. All right, anyways, on to the biggest questions. How will the defense do? And this kind of comes back to that right D side. If Lundqvist prevails, they'll be fine. If Lundqvist doesn't do so well, that right D side could be a little bit iffy at times, 100%. But obviously, we'll see what is to come there for that defense. But I think overall, I think they'll be fine in the end. I think they'll be okay. That right D side still is a little bit weak, but I think they'll be okay come the end of the day. The other question, underrated team. Now, if you guys don't know, I'm very high on Dallas. This season, when my division predictions come out, you guys will see I am incredibly high on the Dallas Stars this coming season. I think they will do very good, and I just think that overall they'll be a good team. 100%. So I think they have a lot of potential to be good, and I think that they can surprise some people. 100%. But anyways, now looking at your point projections according to the Hockey News' fantasy guide here, you have Jason Robertson leading the way with 91 points. You have Rupe Hintz in second with 75. Joe Pavelski in third with 68. Tyler Seguin in fourth with 52. And then Miro Heiskanen in fifth, not first, with 49. So obviously they're Robertson in first. That could depend on whether or not he gets signed to an actual contract. We haven't heard anything, so we'll see if that actually comes into fruition. But obviously here, your sleeper or your bust is Miro Heiskanen. So he's an interesting defenseman there. Followed up a brilliant 2020 playoff run with two nondescript campaigns, but a coaching change in Dallas will give the Stars offense more freedom, and that means Heiskanen will get the green light to join the rush. So obviously there with Pete DeBoer heading into this coaching staff, I haven't discussed that yet, but obviously with him coming in with that little more free offensive role compared to Bowness's ways, I definitely think Heiskanen could ramp up in points and get a lot more points this coming season. Definitely an underrated defenseman. Could get some recognition this coming season. Could be an underrated Vezina candidate if he's one of those players like, let's say, I don't know, Roman Josi, who just pops off this year and gets a lot of points. But obviously Josi's been in the conversation for a while now. Your cup odds are 37-1, so they're a little bit low. They're a little bit off. Or they're a little bit down on Dallas there, obviously. Moving on to your brass, GM Jim Nill let coach Rick Bowness walk after his contract expired, and Nill fired most of the remaining coaching staff. Pete DeBoer takes over the reins and brings along Steve Spott from previous spots in Vegas and San Jose, as well as Elaine Nasruddin. So Nasruddin was obviously with the New Jersey Devils. I definitely think that their special teams could get a little bit better with these guys coming in, but obviously their special teams was actually pretty good last season, so I definitely think that will play a role as well. But yeah, overall, I think with Pete DeBoer coming to this lineup, it's not that bad of a thing. It gives the defenseman a little bit more free reign with the offense. So that is a good thing, but it also is a bad thing. We'll see. But anyways, the other question I have is, will they make the playoffs in 2021? I said yes. In 2022, I said yes. I'm going to say yes again. I think this team is great, and they definitely will make the playoffs this coming season once again. But anyways, this team is obviously great. I have them finishing second in the division. That is my bold take for this year. But anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you all very much for watching. For us personally, I really do appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe down below if you are new. And anyways, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And that does it for the 2022-2023 season previews. Adios.